bringing you all the latest Nodaway County High School and Bearcat sports each week.
10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45.
Starring Erin Sorensen and John Dykstra on the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast.
He ran it back 109 yards. They're not going to keep him off the field.
Coming to you from the campus of Northwest Missouri State University.
Welcome back to another edition of the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast, brought to you by Compass Dental, Doctors Bruce Twaddle and Brian Vertaler. I'm back. I'm Erin Sorensen, your co-host with John. We're going to kick it off right away with Athlete of the Week, so I'm going to turn it over to John for his pick.
We go to a spot that I know is near and dear to my heart and yours too, as a 8-man football. We've got Dalton Luke, who he put the Longhorns on his back for a victory, a 40-30 victory over Northwest Nodaway in Hopkins this weekend, and he finished with 243 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. Also had some yards through the passing game as well. He just really put the team on his back to get that victory, and they moved to 2-1 now in the year, and it's definitely a momentum builder for a team that didn't get into the win column last year and was really hoping to get things turned around and see some of that tangible improvement this week. And they play another one of our area teams on Friday night when they host South Holt, Nodaway Holt, who is also looking for their first win after really a gauntlet of an early season schedule and falling to East Atchison. Erin, I know you go to the volleyball court for your Athlete of the Week.
Yeah, John, like you said, my Athlete of the Week comes from the volleyball side of things, and we've talked about volleyball the last couple of weeks. They've been on their road tournaments here, and they finished up their last road tournament in Newman. That was a 3-0 outing for them, so a really good show for Bearcat volleyball. I talked a little bit about Maddie Bruder, and she was actually my Athlete of the Week, week 1. She continued to stay really dominant, and she kind of helps add to my Athlete of the Week this week, which is Maddy Ahrens, the sophomore setter. Maddie had her third double-double of the season. When they played Ouachita Baptist, she had 29 assists and 13 digs. When they played Newman, she had 35 assists and 35 assists against St. Edwards. Really just a good outing for her. She has a lot of big shoes to fill with Sarah Danatel, who graduated last year. She was a very exciting setter to watch. She knew how to get the ball to her hitters, as well as times when her hitters were just getting blocked or not getting the looks. She would dump it off, do whatever she needed to do to score points and to shift the momentum to the Bearcats. So I credit some of Maddy Ahrens' ability to be settling in so early in her sophomore year to the fact that Coach Worth was able to get her in the game last year, get her to kind of see how Sarah Danatel played, and as well as play some matches when Sarah was out, and that's been really big for her because they kind of ran Sarah and Maddie last year, and that's a big deal for the Bearcats to have a sophomore who's really starting to look like she's comfortable. She's not looking like a young player. She's looking like she's fitting in the groups and connecting with her hitters, and that's what we need to see because we've talked about this volleyball team and how they have great hitters. Now it's all about just making sure we can get the ball to them and making sure they can get the looks that they need. So again, Maddy Ahrens is my Athlete of the Week, and hats off to her for really having a great week and not playing like a sophomore at all, really. And that's what we need to see because I talked about those freshmen quite a bit, that group of, well, they're now sophomores, but when they were freshmen, a lot of those girls got playing time, and they're all great athletes, and they played very well. But no matter what school you go to, even if it's a big school, when you switch from high school to NCAA play, it's a big difference, even if you did play for a big high school. So really kind of making that adjustment and just not playing like young players last year really helped. And the Bearcats needed those girls to play last year, but you need to give credit to Coach Worth for making these girls get in the game so they're ready to go sophomore year, so that Maddie Bruder, Sophia Schleppenbach, Megan Stelmach, and Olivia Nowakowski, her 4 seniors, have a good solid group underneath of them. So that kind of takes me into volleyball's weekend. Like I said, they went 3-0. Some of our really consistent athletes that we've talked about every week. Maddie Bruder, Sophia Schleppenbach, Bethany Elkins, and Hallie Sidney. Maddie had 15 kills, 2 aces, and 1 block. Sophia had 10 kills and 5 blocks. Bethany came in with 9 kills and 4 blocks, and Hallie had 5 kills and 2 blocks in that Newman game, that last game. So really just, it's so exciting to see the consistency from so many players. Those 4, Maddy Ahrens, like I talked last week, the freshman Rachel Sturdivant, and as well as Olivia Nowakowski, the senior, she came in with a team best 14 digs. So really just a great week for them, and it's a good thing to have this kind of weekend right before they open it with the conference. On Friday, they play at home. That's Friday the 14th at 6 p.m. They play Lindenwood. Lindenwood's 6 in the conference right now. Northwest is 7. Last year, Northwest won 3-0 over Lindenwood. But when Lindenwood came to Maryville, Lindenwood won and they went 5 sets. So that's kind of a testament to a lot of things that the girls and Coach Worth have been talking about, is really playing hard through the whole entire game. If they've got to go 5 sets, making sure they play that 5th set, and also kind of hoping that it doesn't go there, making sure that they can just come out and prove dominance all the way through. So that's a really good game. That's going to be a really good game for a home opener. And then on Saturday, after the football team plays, your Bearcat volleyball team will take on UCM at home. UCM is a very familiar opponent, which they all are in the conference, but UCM has been one of those teams where they're kind of a staple, where they stay pretty steady. They've always been pretty good, but they stay pretty steady. Last year, it was kind of just the same deal with Lindenwood. We won one and we lost one, and so that's a testament to this team. They can go in and they can win. They can beat Lindenwood and they can beat UCM. We just need to have that consistency and see those contributors, the senior contributors, sophomore contributors, freshman contributors, even throw some juniors in there, get contributions from everywhere. And Coach Worth is really working on that. She talks a lot about getting the teams to gel together, and she talks about how she likes to look up things and find ways that this team can improve their chemistry off the floor and then bring it onto the court as well. So that will be my athlete of the week this week, Maddy Ahrens, and that is Northwest Volleyball's week. It's going to be really big, and we're actually going to see how they're going to fare in the conference here pretty quick. It is family weekend, and our Bearcat football is back in action on Saturday, but let's go back and let's talk a little bit about their game against Washburn, John.
Yeah, they came out a little slow against Washburn. I think Coach Wright would admit that too, but 14-14 at halftime, but boy, they turned it on in the second half and really rolled to that victory. And once again, Braden Wright just came out and looked like the quarterback that he's kind of been hyped up to be here in the early going, running for over 100 yards, throwing for over 100, well over 100, over 200, just really leading that offense. And you could tell he really had the offense fired up a lot of times too, and got the whole team involved besides just himself. Just a really quality win over a defense that was supposed to be one of the top in the conference and still might be. We might just be having to prepare ourselves for how good this offense could be, and if that's the case, you know that defense is going to be good, so it could be a fun year, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's like you said, Braden Wright has been a topic for most media throughout this early part of the Bearcat season, and when he rushes for 118 yards, 2 touchdowns, 14 carries. I mean, that's pretty incredible, especially being, a redshirt freshman. One of the things that I like to let people know is Bearcat Nation, because fans love to see what kind of guys these players are. Obviously, they love them on the field, but it's exciting when you have a guy like Braden who has been so humble and still wants to push. One of the things that he said after the game, he said it wasn't him, it was his offense that was clicking and moving the ball. And he also talked about not being complacent and that there's always stuff to improve, and that is a very good sign for Bearcat fans, just to have such a humble kid who's ready to work.
Well, after the game, I went and we kind of get to interview him on the field after these road games, kind of like a high school game. And first I got Coach Rich Wright, and after talking to him, I went over to Braden, and Rich kind of followed me over there and gave Braden a hug before I got there and said he was so proud of the way he played. And the first thing Braden said is, "I promise I'm never going to fumble again." Just thinking he had this amazing game, and the first thing he's thinking about when his head coach comes up and tries to praise him is the one fumble he had early in the game and trying to make up for that. So that just shows you where his mind is, and always kind of working to improve there.
Yeah, and like I said, that's, as a Bearcat fan, that is everything you want to see in one of your guys. And Braden Wright has been the story of this offense for quite a while now, but there's also a lot of power around Braden. Sean Bain had 5 grabs. He went 76 yards. And then Isaiah Strayhorn and Josh Caldwell, they had 147 rushing yards combined, and they averaged 7 yards per carry. So that's also exciting for the Bearcats, kind of almost like the volleyball. You like to see when a lot of guys and gals in volleyball are contributing and getting work done. It's nice not to have to rely on one person. Like Braden Braden said, there's always something you can fix, and I think those guys are going to continue to work and to really be strong and go throughout the season, have one of the most dominant offenses in the conference, hopefully. But then you got to look at the other side of the ball, which was an interesting story, John. When we looked at the defense against Washburn, what did you kind of see in the first half and then in the second half?
The first half was kind of frustrating for the defense, and really the first possession of the second half as well. That's when they got their 17 points Washburn ended up with, and it was really the deep passing game. Like Coach Wright said after the game, they really couldn't run on us at all, and he was right. They struggled to run at all.
I'm a numbers nerd. I like to look at the numbers, and the Ichabods average 1.5 yards per carry. So even with those adjustments, and as Bearcat fans, we can say, and as Bearcat fans, we expect, hey, the first half, things need to be cleaned up. But for other teams, heck, that might be a pretty good first half for defense, and that's what's crazy is the standard that Northwest holds itself to as a football program.
Those rushing numbers are just incredible, too, considering Ben Altoff was out, maybe the best linebacker in the nation. One of our other starters, Andy Hessler, left the game in the second half with an injury. We're replacing 3 or 4 starters on the defensive line. But, yeah, Washburn, who takes pride in being a running team with a running quarterback in Blake Peterson, they just couldn't get anything going against that front seven. And that really speaks to how they're able to next man up and really step up in that, especially that linebacking core and that front four too, just replacing what they had to from last year.
It goes on and on. It's incredible. The Bearcats, they ended up really kind of terrorizing quarterback Blake Peterson for Washburn, sacked him 5 times, 17 total tackles for loss. Just really kind of, like I said, you still see improvements that could be made for Bearcat football, but a promising game on both sides of the ball.
And when that offense is clicking like that too, that's what allowed them to, as you said, terrorize Blake Peterson, because once they got that lead and they were able to score points, it became very obvious that they were going to keep scoring points. Washburn knew they had to throw. Northwest knew they had to throw. And at that point, you can just set guys like Austin Eskew and Andy Hessler and Sam Roberts and those guys loose on the outside and let them go hunt after Blake Peterson a little bit, and you could definitely see that in the second half.
Yeah, and there's no better way to describe it than what you just said, kind of go hunt for those quarterbacks. It's extremely fun to watch. So now, next Saturday, as we mentioned, Family Weekend comes up. They're going to play Missouri Southern on Saturday. That kickoff's at 1:30. Now, Missouri Southern is 11th in the conference right now. What are you going to see from that game?
It's going to be hard to maybe judge Missouri Southern as much, because they have been thoroughly trounced, we'll say, in the first couple games, and it fits with last year. They have been a team that has been struggling for a while now. Hopefully, if the game goes as I expect, I would predict a pretty good size Northwest victory, and maybe we could see some players that we haven't seen as much from this season, and kind of maybe get some more guys in there and just get prepared for the rest of the season a little bit.
Yeah, and I agree. So I'm going to surprise John here with a question, the impossible question. I'll give him the question, then I'll say a little bit more so he has time to think about it. I'm going to want you to maybe pick a score for me for that game.
I was afraid you were going to say
and
that.
See, I'm going to let everybody know. Last year we won 63-0. Like I said, they're 11th in the conference. And the reason why I ask is because Moso has struggled. This game is still important for the Bearcats, but the way Braden's been running the offense, there is a potential for a big offensive game. So, John, what are you thinking?
Rich is gonna kill me if he learns that I predict a 60-point victory, but it's hard to say they're not going to do what they did last year. So I will say, throw out a number here, 52-6. We'll say.
Okay, there we go. I was gonna say in the 48-0, 48-6 range. And so we're going to kind of move along here in the football spectrum. As you know, the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast, we like to cover all kinds of area sports. And today we're brought to you by Compass Dental Doctors Bruce Twaddle and Brian Vertaler. We're going to switch speeds here. We're going to move it over to high school football with the Spoofhounds.
Yeah, the Spoofhounds had another good weekend, their second straight shutout. They came out and really performed well against Chillicothe, who, Chillicothe last year, you could have made that argument that they were the second best team in the state, because they beat Maryville early, and then along with KC Center really gave them their closest game on the way to the eventual state championship for the Spoofhound. But they came out and just throttled Chillicothe on Thursday night on Friday night, at Bearcat Stadium, and I think that might have contributed a little bit to it too. Certainly the Spoofhounds get excited to play in the Hound Pound every week, as evidenced by that winning streak that they have there. But getting the chance to play in a college stadium and go across town and play at Northwest, that you could tell that was exciting for the kids. And they came out and showed it with a 47-0 victory over a Chillicothe team that is rebuilding this year. But still, anytime you can beat a team 47-0, you're going to take it.
And, last week I talked about Bearcat football's home opener and really kind of packing the stands for Northwest. For the Spoofhounds, as a high school, I saw pictures of the stands. Man, they showed out and they were ready to support their team. Yeah,
they pretty much filled the home stands on that one. At least probably about 3/4 of the home stands were filled with Spoofhound fans, and the quarter that was left for Chillicothe had some empty seats. But they pretty well filled up that side of the stadium, and they just came out on fire with their first 5 possessions. They scored touchdowns, and that got the fans into it. And maybe things were in our favor because the rain also held off. So it was just ended up being a beautiful night for football.
Yeah, and what a night for Eli Dowis and Tyler Houchin to kind of play in front of that crowd. They were pretty electric, as most of the time they are. Out of the 7 touchdowns, 5 of them came from Eli and Tyler. Can you kind of talk about just their weekend?
Yeah, it's kind of what I was talking about with the Bearcat defense, where you almost expected out of those two at this point. You're right, 5 touchdowns from them, but you would almost say neither of them breaking 100 yards. Eli finishing with 91 and Tyler finishing with 78. Almost a down weekend average-wise, but that's just the crazy expectations we have for those two guys at this point. And part of that also went to you didn't need to use them as much, which gave the opportunity for some other guys to step up. I know a late touchdown by Caleb Kreisinger, which is very exciting for the rest of the team because he's a guy Matt Webb talked about in the preseason, just working so hard and a good blocker at receiver. And he ended up making a very nice catch over the middle, one of Ben Walker's 3 touchdowns, which is nice to see from the sophomore quarterback as well, with getting those 3 touchdowns and kind of developing some more of that confidence. And we just talked about Braden. Hopefully we have him around for the next 4 years, but Ben leading that Spoofhound attack for the next 3 is going to be pretty exciting too. So plenty of young quarterbacks to be excited about around here. And Dion Metzer had a very good catch as well, 44 yards roughly, somewhere in there.
And just so we look at both sides of the ball, 47-0. How did the Spoofhounds go ahead and shut out Chillicothe?
I said the Bearcats were hunting. Well, the Hounds, they were just out. I almost just stole a line from Eli actually last week. He said the Hounds are out for blood, and not to get too gruesome, but they definitely were in that game. They set their linebacking core. That's what I really noticed from the game, is just how active that group of linebackers were. And Tyler Houchin's a part of that. Tyler McGarry and Trevor Townsend. And between Townsend and McGarry especially, they were just flying around the field, and it was really cool to see. And also their secondary, I talked to Jason Bagley after the game, who had a couple really nice plays, and he just talked about how that group is really gelling together. They returned Tate Oglesby and Eli, as I said before, as starters in that secondary, but adding Brendan Peterson and adding Jason Bagley to that mix, they've really come together. It was definitely a good week for Spoofhound football.
Yeah, and we love it when we can talk about a lot of victories in our coverage area. So let's kind of look ahead into next week, Spoofhounds as well as other things of what we've got coming up.
Well, as for the Hounds, the football team is on the road playing against St. Pius. If you're not feeling that drive to Kansas City necessarily, there is a lot of home Spoofhound activities to go and watch too. It starts on Monday where the tennis team is home. They play Benton, and softball, who's coming off a huge victory where Riley Gray, a junior pitcher, threw a shutout, and you had 2 homers from senior Jacqueline Hirsch over to beat Cameron 6-0 the other day. So they are home in a non-conference game against Worth County, and then they are home on Tuesday again in the rivalry game against Savannah. On Thursday, cross country finally gets going. We've been kind of anticipating cross country. They are on the road in Platte County, but it's just exciting to get them going. And then Thursday, golf is home in a tournament at Mazingo, and soccer gets their first home game of the year. We always talk about Bearcat volleyball going to those road tournaments, but Spoofhound soccer does the same thing. They've been in Kansas City at Barstow, and they were at Excelsior Springs this week where they took second. They went undefeated in the tournament, but it's a round-robin tournament basically, so they tied Excelsior Springs, so then goal differential gave the technical tournament championship to Excelsior Springs. But Spoofhound soccer, that is Definitely off to a good start. And then volleyball is back home again Thursday against Lafayette. So just a busy week of Spoofhound athletics, so should be exciting.
Yeah, and it is going to be very busy for Spoofhounds, and that's, as a sports fan, that's all you can imagine. As we mentioned, football is back in action. Bearcat football is back in action on Saturday. They'll play Missouri Southern. And one game that I didn't touch on earlier that I want to touch on is Northwest Volleyball upcoming on Tuesday. So they've got their Friday and their Saturday games against Lindenwood and UCM.
But the rivalry game, man.
On Tuesday at home at 7 p.m., Bearcat Arena, they play Mo West. And the thing about Mo West is right now, Missouri Western's picked 8th in the conference. I don't think that's a true teller of who they really are. This is going to be a big game and an exciting game for the Bearcats. And I can tell you one thing, the bigger crowd that will show out for this team, the better it's going to be for them. Because last year, Mo West got a split share of the conference and really looked pretty good. Their coach has really kind of worked with the team. I think the reason why they're picked preseason 8th, they lost their libero, she graduated, and then they're only returning one outside hitter. But I still think it's going to be a very big game, and I know those girls are really going to be looking to show out and show what they can do this season. I know they're looking for a big season. So, like John said, all around this week, we've got good games that just in our area that you can come watch. Spoofhounds, Bearcats, I expect good things from all of them. And it's really just going to be an exciting week. This week we're very excited. We've got a new segment, you should say. We've got our first guest, and actually what a guest to have. Former Bearcat and national champion, as well as MIAA conference tournament champion, dominant athlete. If you know Bearcat sports at all, you're going to know this guy. We are extremely excited to say we have Chris Ndow from Norway here on the line with us, and we're going to kind of interview him and talk to him a little bit about where life's kind of taken him. He's actually playing overseas for Kongsberg. They are defending champs, and he's currently calling from UK because he's traveling around for preseason. But without any further ado, Chris Ndow is going to kind of take it over here and tell us a little bit about his experience, as he was one of the most dominant, well-rounded athletes that Northwest has seen in quite a while. First of all, Chris, thank you so much for calling in today with us here. I know that the fans are going to be very excited to hear from you and what all's going on. Can you kind of tell us right off the bat where you're at and kind of what you're doing?
Right now I'm in not too far away from London because we're playing some preseason games with our Norwegian team. So I'm in the UK right now, so kind of on the go right now. They're the defending champions here in Norway, and they're a pretty professional team. And obviously, I've had a different kind of offers here overseas, and I just felt like going back home was the best move right now in my life at this point. So obviously, I want to explore and go different places maybe later in my career, but right now I thought that was the best thing to do, and they're a really good team, and obviously we're pretty good this year and got an opportunity to play in the FIBA qualification to the Euro Cup. So there's a lot of good things ahead for this team. So I'm really excited for this year.
So what was this summer kind of like for you? I know Coach McCollum talked to us earlier when Justin signed about you and Justin just working out at Northwest all summer and kind of waiting for that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I stayed in Maryville, Missouri all summer, pretty much. Just working out, hanging out with Justin and a few other guys from the team as well as I could, and obviously getting as many workouts as I could just to be ready for this next step that I'm about to take. So, no, it was a good summer. Just got in the gym, got better, and enjoyed it.
So, Chris, we talked about you kind of working out here this summer with Justin and some of the guys, and can you talk a little bit about what your time here at Northwest meant? Not just maybe all the winning in the championships, but even just the community and the people and the connections that you made here in Maryville, Missouri.
Oh, I'm going to miss it a whole lot. Just the university and the people here has kind of grew into being a second family for me. And, I had 4 really good years here with a lot of winning, a lot of relationship build, and a lot of special moments, that nobody can take away from me or the team. So that's definitely something I'm going to miss. I don't think, no matter where I go play or what team I end up in, it's never going to be anything like Northwest and the college experience. So that's definitely something I'm going to miss a lot. And I got some friends for a lifetime that I'm always going to stay in touch with. So that's the good part about it.
Yeah, Maryville's definitely a special place, and it kind of leaves a hold on you no matter where you go. Chris, can you kind of tell us now as an alumni and probably be a fan of Northwest your whole entire life, what's it like looking ahead at this team, and kind of what do you see for this men's basketball team as we move into this upcoming season and these new group of guys, essentially, because a lot of you guys have graduated?
That I barely got to meet the freshmen and kind of the newer players coming in to the team, and I'm pretty excited because I heard a lot of good things about them, and I think the program is definitely on the right track, and that's something I take a lot of pride in, and I know a lot of the other guys take pride in, the way the guys before us built the culture and how we've been able to uphold it like we have, and just seeing the guys coming in. I'm not sure how the team is going to do. It's a really young team now, and obviously there's a lot of key players that we had last year, the last couple of years, that was part of that championship team that we don't have anymore. But like I said, I mean, it's a really talented group, and obviously with a great coach. So the sky's the limit for that team. They probably going to have some growing pains and some working to do just to be cohesive and do kind of the stuff that we did. But I have all type of confidence in the team and that they can be really special.
You mentioned that great coaching, and Coach McCollum certainly won, but how much did Austin help you guys develop? And he's obviously got his own program now, so are you kind of curious to watch him see how he how he kind of builds his own program out there?
Yeah, I'm really happy. I mean, all the coaches, they're doing great things right now. It's awesome to see, and Meyer is a really special guy, and it just clicked. I mean, all the coaches and the players, it was just a family, and seeing how people doing good right now and how we work together when we were on a team together was really awesome. And now seeing Coach Meyer taking the steps he's taken, and Coach Mack still being on the men's team, which is huge for the program, it's awesome. And I think both programs and both teams are in really good hands. So it's going to be fun to see.
I think a lot of Bearcat Nation is really excited to see the men's program and where they continue to go with, like you said, that culture that's been built by previous players as well as Coach Mack. And a lot of people are excited for this women's team with Austin Meyer as the new head coach, who was a part of the culture, as well as all those young athletes that they have on the team. But Chris, we'll kind of switch gears back to you to kind of finish up this interview. Can you talk a little bit about first kind of what's been going on since you've been back, as well as any adjustments and things that you have to make going back from, coming to America playing NCAA ball and then going overseas and playing a little pro ball? Talk about the adjustments there for us.
It's going good. I mean, I got here just, a couple of weeks ago, so it's still a process but obviously this is back home, so I'm kind of familiar with it. But obviously things that I got used to in college with things like the shot clock and the type of players I was playing with. It's just an adjustment period, but it's going really good right now. We have a really good team and great players, which is really important as well. So we have the ingredients that we need to have a great year in front of us. So it's going to be fun to see how long we can go.
What's the biggest difference between that the style you played at Northwest and the European style over there?
Yeah, I mean it's funny because cliche wise, it's probably to say that Americans are more up tempo and European is more slow it down. But it's actually been the opposite. With Northwest, it's been very slow and a half court game kind of with Coach Mack playing for him, and now here we try to be an up tempo team. And obviously with the shot clock being 6 seconds less than what it is in college, it's just an adjustment period. You're used to having a lot more time to set up your offense and doing all those type of things. So just getting used to playing more up tempo, running up and down more so than what I did at Northwest, which is, probably the biggest adjustment, but it's nothing that is too hard to adjust to. So I'll be just fine.
Your goals for this year? Do you have anything going in, or are you just kind of going in with an open mind, or what's your goal for this year?
I mean, I'm just, I kind of have an open mind. It's just, help my team the best possible way and being able to win as many games as possible. Obviously, it's a really good team that we have here, and we're expected to go pretty far in the Norwegian League. So, I'm being with this culture at Northwest, I'm kind of gotten used to winning, so I would like to keep that track going. So that's definitely the what I'm hoping for this year, or what I expect for this year, is just being able to win as many games as possible and staying healthy and just enjoying basketball like I have been my whole life.
Well, we know, Chris, that you'll make those adjustments and continue to be successful as you were here at Northwest, and as Bearcat fans, not only as media for Bearcat coverage, but as fans, we say thank you because we really appreciated the time watching you compete and helping bring championships to the school. So, Chris, thank you again so much for talking to us. We wish you nothing but luck overseas with your career, and we hope to see you back in Bearcat Nation soon.
That sounds great. Appreciate it.
And that will do it for us for the third edition of the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast, brought to you by Compass Dental, Doctors Bruce Twaddle and Brian Vertaler. We look to bring you the fourth edition next week with some of the greatest high school sports news, Spoofhound coverage, and Bearcat sports as well. So tune in next Monday to catch up on all these games that we previewed this week. As always, thanks for listening. I'm your co-host, Erin Sorensen, along with John Dykstra.
Bringing you all the latest Nodaway County high school and Bearcat sports each week.
10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45.
Starring Erin Sorensen and John Dykstra on the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast.
He ran it back 109 yards. They're not going to keep him off the field.
Coming to you from the campus of Northwest Missouri State University.